scared. I know. I want you. Woo. Okay. So welcome everyone to the preview really for Shadoworld. It is. I really wanted to do it last year. Cherami, did you when last year started? I know one of your first thoughts was, "Oh no, Shadowworld's in danger."
Well, you had said pretty shortly after lockdown, you were like, "Don't worry, we're still gonna do Shadowworld," and I was like, "But how?" So my concern was, I was not comfortable recording from home and tackling this book. I was like, it is not going to be up to the standard that Colorworld deserves because I do not feel equipped to engineer myself, and none of the studios were open. So I was terrified.
Well, Todd, I think Todd twice. One time, I think he outright tried to talk me out of it. He was like, "You should just put this off." And I was like, "But what if I qualify for the EIDL and it's all paid? We should do this." But I don't know that anybody foresaw the backlog in anime and video that built up. And then once everybody figured out recording from home, every actor was like,
it was nuts.
Yeah, it's been really crazy seeing actors' backgrounds change since we started Colorworld Live. It's like in the beginning, I saw people with like in their closet with like sheets up and stuff, and now they've got like super crazy high tech like sound booth. I'm like, now you look like you're in a spaceship.
Totally. There's some of them that have like different colored lights inside, and sometimes they change colors. And there's a couple of people when I've done panels. We did a persona event, and a couple of people, I was like, "Guys, your lights are changing again. Are you about to take off?" And they're like, "No, we just forgot to turn them off."
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. The world is so different now than it was. Have you kept up with the miniature landscapes? How does your elf village look?
My elf village is going well. I had a little tiny, looks like a little Matchbox world with very, very tiny bunnies. I did that. And then I'm still trying to complete, it's like a little garden landscape, but having to do little tiny plants made with beads as the pots is very time consuming. So I haven't finished that one yet.
That's intense. Now, I feel like it's almost like a miniature train set. It reminds me of like building a landscape for have you ever seen one of those like large elaborate?
Oh yeah. There was a mall that I in Dallas where I grew up where they did the whole town, and you would get to walk through and see all of the miniatures. Also, I think it's Chicago has all of the miniature rooms in their museum, and there's a series of books that are written about these rooms. And they had one book in the gift shop. And this is very true to form for me, as you guys know. I was like, "Where's the rest of this? It says this is 1 of 5. And the woman was like, "No one has looked at those books in like 10 years. And I was like, "Well, that's a crime. I need this and I need to find the other ones." So I've been on a quest to find these books since I went to Chicago. I guess it was probably 2018, 2019. I've since found them all. I've read one, so I've got a little ways to go. But I guess I'm just an avid collector of book series, and I want to go to all of the small bookshops and find them all.
Yeah. So
I'm a Pokemon collector of novels.
It's you literally this was the easiest layup you've ever given me. So I was like, it'll just come to me when to ask this question. We famously, I've told the story from our side so many times. I'm sure Rachel would love to never hear the story again. But what is the story from your side? Like, what made you? We said no twice. You came.
I feel like it gets a little embellished every time Brad tells it too. Like a little more embellished.
Should I? Okay, so 5 times in 5 different cities.
No, it was 20 times. It's 20 times. Brad.
Sorry. The fish has
I've been following you for 12 years.
for decades. I've known of Rachel since she was a child.
Yes. I knew Rachel would be writing these books before Rachel knew she would be writing these books.
Oh my God.
Actually, it was Cherami's idea that I write books.
Yeah. I mean, really.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible how rumors get started.
Oh my
Not
gosh.
true.
So like what made you that first time? As soon as I like put two and two together, I was like, oh, Rachel, you'll never guess who that woman is that keeps asking for your book. What made you want to get that first book on?
So the first time that I saw you guys and I got a book was at my first time going to SAC Anime, and my mom goes and scopes out the vendor's hall while I'm in panels. And then if I don't have a lot of time, she'll be like, you have to hit these places. And she bought a ton of bookmarks from you guys because she's like, these are so cool with the metal. And then we went up and the art for Colorworld was so appealing. And I loved all the colors, and then flipped it over. And I like anything that has to do with like magic or something supernatural, something that is beyond what we can see. And this had a little bit of all of that. So I was like, I want this first book. And I think at that point, obviously you hadn't written all of the books that have been written now, but I think you had book 1 and book 3 in stock, and you just sold out of book 2. It was something like that. So I was like, well, I need to buy all that you have. And you're like, we don't have, but it was whatever you did not have at the time. I'm like, well, I can't read these out of order. I'm missing. So I was able to read 1. And like, each time I would see you at a convention, I would like try to fill in whichever books were missing.
I have it's probably 3 or 4 times I tried to like give you a book in the series, and to your credit, you absolutely like, to the point where if you were in the middle of an autograph, you'd be like, no, Mom, get my card out. You give that man, he's got a narrator on him.
You guys, it's Rachel's work. She worked and wrote these books, and like, these are not like quick books. You invested so much time in creating these worlds while you were raising children, or like growing children in your body throughout this entire series. And then you guys had to self produce the books and promote the books, and like, that's no small job.
Sam, what was it like for like what? So Sam, for anyone who doesn't know Sam is the greatest Colorworld fan on planet Earth. The only one who knows almost as much as Rachel about the series is Sam. Has copy edited many books, has been a part of essentially our family, has worked shows with us. Anyone who's been to shows in Ohio has definitely seen Sam with us at our booths. Sam, what was it for you that just said, I have to start this thing? And then at what point in the series were you like, this is a huge part of my life?
Well, okay, so obviously the bubble attracted me, very first thing. It's that Colorworld bubble. But it was Wizard World Ohio back in like 2015. There were 2 books out. Book 3 was getting ready to come out.
Was 2014. Yeah.
2014. Even worse. That long ago, guys. But I always walked around Artist Alley looking for books because, as you can see, I have a massive collection. And I would just buy all the books, and I am the easiest sell ever. So Rachel just starts talking, and of course she's new to it, so she's still not like great at pitching her book yet. And I was like, yes, I'm in. I want all 3. And then I went home that night and I read 1 chapter because I was like, I have so many other books to look at, so I'm going to read 1 chapter. Came back in, walked past the booth again. I was like, I read 1 chapter. It's great so far, and just kept going. And then I finished it all, and I just became hooked. So.
I remember that like so vividly too. Like it was my second show that I'd ever done.
Wow.
And, I was on the road with my friend Tiffany and our 4 kids who were all under the age of 5. So things are a little crazy. That was like the craziest thing. And I remember Sam I could almost like picture her like walking up really fast, like leaning on the table. Tell me about this book. And I was like,
pretty much. I'm like, pitch me your book real quick. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I'll buy them all.
I was like, wow, good thing I practiced this.
So Rachel, the first 3 books, they feel very much like they feel cohesive. They have a certain look to them, a certain feel. It's been hilarious as Zova Marketing has jumped in and Aaron's dove into the series. He keeps calling me. He's like, Brad, the chapters, they're so short. It's so easy to read. And I remember thinking when in my first exposure to the series, like, oh, I love that she has made this so easy to read. Did you consciously set out to do that as far as the structure goes? Like, what is it that made you structure the chapters the way that you did? And then how did you get from 1 through 3 to like 4, where I feel like you just opened up a can when it came to Shadoworld?
That's such an interesting question. I don't think I've ever been asked about chapter length. I think it was just what was natural to me. I always think of chapters as taking breaths. And I don't feel like you should have too much in a chapter before the reader can pause. Okay. And I also always appreciate having a stopping point. Like as a reader, it's like, I could just read this forever. I got to read one more chapter. But then the chapter's like 10, 15 pages long. You're like, ugh. So I kind of like want to put it in bites, I guess, so that you can feel like you take a breath between the chapters. I mean, that being said, I really like putting cliffhangers on the end of chapters too. So I can't say that I always make it super easy to put it down, but yeah. So, but then I feel like that was a 2-part question.
Yeah. The second part was, I mean, 1 through 3 really feels like you're in the same series, but I feel like in Shadoworld, you rip the Band-Aid off. All of a sudden we're awake. We're aware that the world is a whole lot bigger. You know, it used to be like our little team. And then all of a sudden there's all these other players and people take on huge roles that you just didn't know that they were going to be even that important to the story. Like it was a huge shift in gears. Like what brought you to that, like where you're really going to open our eyes?
Oh, well, pretty sure you know what that is. Like we had this conversation. I'd finished like the first 3 drafts, I think. And I said, I don't even remember what the conversation was, but I was talking about one of the characters, and I was like, I'm not sure what to do. I feel like I need to do this thing, and this person needs to die. Yeah. Why are you doing spoilers? What are you doing? Shh. Gosh, I was being ambiguous for a reason.
Oh, okay.
Gosh. Okay, so saying this character needs to die, but if I don't kill them, then I could have all this other stuff. But it feels like they need to, like they're supposed to, like that's the end, right? And they're like, well, what if you don't kill them? And I was like, I mean, I could write a lot more books then.
I know from the beginning, I was like, I saw the backlash from when J.K. Rowling ended Harry Potter, and there was like literal fan backlash. Why did you stop? Give us more. This is stupid. That other book you tried to write was horrendous. Please go back to the thing that you're good at. And I was like, we cannot commit that trust. If it works and people like what you're writing, I already know what they want. They want more of this thing. But continuing the series is one thing, but I don't know, maybe Shadoworld doesn't feel as different to you, but all of a sudden we have bazookas and there are people in societies and like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to write now than it was. I wrote the first 3 book drafts in 6 weeks. So all 3 I wrote in 6 weeks. I barely can get one book out a year now because and it's not that it's hard to write, it's just so complicated. And I have to keep track of all of these timelines and what people said and what people did, because if you mess it up, somebody's going to point out to you that you missed blah, 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 blah. So I'm very, very meticulous about making sure. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I miss Brody.
Yes.
Sorry, I saw the chat.
No, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. It's so awesome. Yeah. I'm sad that we don't get to meet up at Salt Lake, and also I still don't have another book for last year. I'm still working on it. So sorry.
Yeah, I've been waiting.
So Sam, did you like what was your when you got to Shadoworld, did you feel like Rachel it was to me it was like a car accident. Like life is gonna go on, but it's never gonna be the same.
Okay, so I was copy editing Shadoworld while working with Rachel at Wizard World, Ohio in like 2016. So I had read the first half of it that first night, came in the second day, and I'm like, yeah, I'm about halfway through. We're having a really great time. And Rachel's like, oh, okay, cool. Come in on Sunday morning, and I'm like, I cried for an hour.
Oh
And it was just like,
no.
Shadoworld.
Do you remember what she's talking about, Cherami?
Oh man.
I think my other copy editor, Kristen, said I threw it across the room and then I went to bed.
I literally cried for an hour and then I went to sleep, just sad.
Like I knew, I remember that this happened, but I guess I didn't actually compute that I will be reading that. Not just from the narrator perspective, but from Wendy's perspective. And that's just, it's all come together and this is going to be emotional.
It's going to be like a BFD. This book so is it I guess you do so much first person in anime that it's probably not as big a jolt as from the performance aspect because you're used to being your character and you're used to being in first person. And we were the first audiobook, which was a huge honor for us to like when I found out you hadn't done any audiobooks, I was like, is it even possible? Can I even book you for this? Like,
yeah, I hadn't done any audiobooks. I guess the closest thing I had done to an audiobook would be little tiny stories teaching kids how to read. I had done textbooks with a couple companies that were teaching English to kids in Japan. And then I had done, someone actually messaged me during quarantine and said, did you do this reading for this company? My child is doing their homework and it helps. The kids have to say like, are you an A, B, C, D, E? And it goes all the way to, I guess, to G reader based on your grade level and the speed that you read. And so I had to either slow the words down incredibly slowly to read with them or pick up the pace. But those stories were anywhere from a couple chapters if it was a kindergartner to maybe like 3 or 4 pages if the kid was in 5th or 6th grade. But that was the closest I'd come to an audiobook. So obviously this is much meatier and much more of an audiobook situation.
So did as a reader, what was your thought process when you jumped in and it was first person?
Well, I guess because because I've done in class, it just felt like I was just reading books out loud, and then that was a natural shift for me. What Todd would get on to me for when Todd was directing the first book is I would forget which characters were mine, and I would just keep reading through the book. And he's like, "You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. Somebody else is going to do this. Just stop, pause." And of course, like you want to try to get as clean of a take as possible. Yeah. So each time I trip over a word or as Todd said, I would often read too fast. He's like, you've got to slow down. I was like, but the book is ramping up, man. And he's like, yeah, but you need to slow down. You've got to help us get through this world a little slower. So we would have to like redo takes like that. But then once we got into a groove, it was great. But like Rachel said, those wonderful cliffhangers, he'd go, we're going to get through this chapter. We're going to take a break. And I just keep on going. He's like, what part of we're going to get through this chapter? And I was like, Todd, the cliffhanger. And he's like, Cherami, you need water. No, I don't.
No, I need to know. Oh, that's awesome. What moments that stood out for me? I will just never unsee the bazooka, the rocket launcher. I don't want to tell people where it's at. It's just such a different version of Wendy than you get at any point before that. And it's a very Urza moment. It's a very, this chick is a bad bitch and you just mess with her and that's it. She's just like, she never goes back really. It's a huge moment for Wendy. That whole arc is a huge moment for Wendy. What are some moments for you? We'll go Sam and then Rachel and Cherami. What are moments for you in Shadoworld that you will never? It's just you love it. You live for it.
Literally all the mic. Just give
all
me
the mic.
Every mic. I love Mike.
Oh man, David Wald, it can hear you right now. Yeah,
yep.
He's going Team Mike right now.
I'm legit okay with that.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you're not alone. There's a Team Mike fan base out there, and when they get that much David Wald, I might be Team Mike by the time I'm done.
Totally, you will be.
He is such a sex pot. I cannot help it. Rachel, what is your?
Well, I so enjoy writing snarky scenes and like humor, and I always enjoyed the dynamic between Wendy and Mike in that book, specifically because it was so fun to just write it such an asshole and then have Wendy react to it. And just sort of like she's desperately trying to figure him out and she just can't. And so I really enjoyed writing all of the scenes with Mike, not because I'm Team Mike, but just because it was just such a different thing to write. And then he gives her such a run for her money. And probably my favorite line in the whole book is where she's like, "What is this? 50 Shades of Magic Mike?" And I was like, that is the most clever thing I've ever written. Yes. Like, so yeah, I'm with Sam.
Oh gosh, Cherami, what about you?
I that's one of the things that I love about Wendy throughout the series, is the snarky, sarcastic elements that we'll see of her, and she keeps everybody on their toes. We get all these great vulnerable moments, but like Rachel said, the humor is there, and that's some of my favorite stuff to read with any character and to narrate. So that's my favorite. But also, it felt like I love mysteries. I love detective style stuff, and figuring out Mike in that way was really fun. Oh no! I'm getting like a weird feedback. I don't know what happened. It's on my end. Oh, now it's gone.
Okay, we're good.
Magic. But yeah, it's all that her trying to figure out Mike, because we've seen such a different side of Mike, and Wendy has not. He's always been a mystery to her. And so now when we get so much Mike, we've got to get so much clarification. And I really like that it was like interrogation scenes all the time, figuring out how to get to the bottom of what his motives were, which was the best.
Did you feel like that, Rachel? Did you feel like you owed everybody all the questions that they had in books 1 through 3? Did you feel like is it just because Wendy has nothing else to do but interrogate him along? Like, what led to? There's so much discovery.
Well, I think she just can't stand that someone doesn't like her, and that he doesn't seem to have a reason to not like her, and so you kind of get this other side of, because when you encounter Wendy in the first 3 books, it's so much her responding to Gabe like all the time, and you really don't get how hard it was for her to like navigate that, particularly in book 1, because that's all you know. So now you see her interacting with a different character, and you kind of see like it's nice to see Wendy without Gabe, because he has such a strong personality and a particular way of communicating, and Wendy has a particular way of communicating back to him. But then to see her interact with someone more normal, I guess, you kind of get to see her personality from a different perspective. I think we all kind of act a certain way depending on who we're around. So you get to see a different side of Wendy that you wouldn't have normally gotten to see. You kind of see the same thing in book 5, when there's sort of a reset.
Yep.
And you get to see her never having known Gabe. And, and that's another instance in which you get to know what Wendy was like before, or what she's like without Gabe. And I guess that was my thought process with Mike, is kind of revealing that side of her.
Do you ever get tired of people texting you and emailing you asking if they found a horrible error in book 5 and that you accidentally put part of book 1 at the beginning of?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, I think everybody who knows me personally, who's read the book, will send me a text or a message and be like, "Is this correct? I think I got like a misprint or something."
I totally did.
Keep reading.
Totally.
It'll make sense.
I was like, oh man,
I think even you did. You're like, "Is this right?"
Oh yeah, I was utterly convinced you had accidentally like picked up a draft of Colorworld and then like I don't even. I was
except it's not the same. If you know Colorworld, Sam, I know you do. You'll know immediately that it's different. That it's some things are cut out, other things are added. You get like very small nuances. So it's literally not exact copy and paste. Now I did copy and paste it to write it, but I made an effort to like not copy it word for word, so that way it would kind of feel new when you read it. So
did she get you, Cherami, when you started Dreamworld?
I was a little confused at the beginning. And then I think like 2 or 3 pages in, I was like, no, there's a shift. So I was like, okay. But it was very, very subtle shift that, and I think because I was reading it on the way back from a convention. So it was Sunday and it was very tiring. So I started reading it and I was like, no, I picked up the wrong. No, this is different. Tired Cherami was a little confused. And then I was like, oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Yeah.
Sam, did you know right away?
I mean, I've seen it happen in other books, so I had kind of an inkling, but it took a few pages to be like, yep, that's exactly what I'm reading.
Did we tell either of you the whole, like, a lot of how Dreamworld came about is that we had been 4 books into the series. Many years had passed since the start of it, and we thought, like, how on earth are we going to get new readers? Why don't we do something like Star Wars did and start people in the middle of the story, and then if they fall in love and they want to go back, there's the prequels already exist, and then so Rachel's like, okay, I think I can do this, and to me it's brilliant in terms of how we get to the point where we need the beginning of Dream. Now I'm trying to honor your like no spoiler, Rachel. I think it's just like, how did that? Oh man, can I even ask this question without giving? How did that idea come to you, Rachel, to do?
Well, I wrote. So it's the first 4 chapters of Colorworld. So of Dreamworld is essentially your like recap or whatever, and then after I actually started writing it at chapter 5. So the now, if you will. And I wrote the entire thing, and I just kept thinking like, I feel like I need like a transition or something. Like I need to see where she remembers, because people are going to have read the series and they're going to forget where she started. Mm-hmm. So I want people to remember where she started. And so I tried to condense it. So I condensed it quite a bit into the first 4 chapters to like, make it as short as possible, because if there's one thing I really hate in series, it's reading recaps. And I'm like, I'm a fan. I already know all this stuff. Like I don't want to read everything that happened already. So I really stuck with that in Colorworld, the series, trying to like recap as little as possible and condense and not say anything that wasn't absolutely necessary to recap. So yeah, I added that after the fact, just to try to like give people a little bit of an idea where she was when she went into the story of book 5. So that was my thinking on that.
Cherami, do you watch the recap at the beginning of an anime?
Yeah, I mean occasionally. I mean, obviously we don't watch it while we're recording it unless there's lines in it.
Sure.
But yeah, usually, well, I guess it depends on how long it's been since I've seen the episode. If I'm like binging it all in one sitting, I may not watch the recap. But it's kind of nice if I'm watching it like a week later or a couple weeks later, maybe it's because I work on so much anime or video games, and sometimes if you're working late hours, it all starts to blend. You're like, give me a recap so I figure out which world I'm in and what's happening, because I don't remember.
That's true. Sam,
that's why I had to stop reading the manga for Fairy Tail while I was working on it, because I was getting ahead of the animation, and then I would go back and I was like, well, I already know that this happened. And Tyler was like, Lucy does not know that. You know that because you're reading ahead. So I was like, oh, I need to stop. This is making me confused.
Are you that kind of actress, Cherami, where you don't want to, like, you want to prepare to an extent, but you don't want to know too much that happens in the future, because then it, like, I don't know, ruins the acting for you? Like,
yeah, it depends on the director. I have a couple directors that are like, I would like you to watch ahead. For Sword Art, Alex Von David told me before my first session, I want you to watch a couple of the episodes just so you understand the world, because a lot happens before you guys kind of get into the show. Yeah. And so I watched the first couple of episodes the night before my session, which ended up with me being watching the first 11 episodes. And then something really terrible happens. And so I showed up to my first session angry. And I was like, what are we even doing? I'm really tired and I'm really sad. And he was like, I did not tell you to watch that many episodes. So yeah, I'll watch a little bit, or I'll ask people, like, is there anything you'd like me to prep? And a lot of directors are like, I don't want you to prep anything. I'd like you to go on this journey with the character. And then some say, I would like you to watch this movie or this anime or look at this game for tone. So I usually ask the directors, like, what is your preference with me going into this process? Because some of them I'll say, yeah, I watched this. They're like, why did you watch it? We wanted to see your natural reaction. So now I have to check.
Fantastic. Well, you're going to have quite the opportunity to really just go ham in this book. I know that there was a lot of both Melissa and Todd were like, Cherami, but I feel like in this book, it's just so there that I think you can just go.
Uh-oh.
There's so much. Both ends, both like the loss that's experienced, and then also Wendy. Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm like, in my head, I just went Lucy, Cherami, Wendy. At least often I was not. Wendy there's so much that she finds in herself. This is like, she just becomes that woman that everyone can look to say, like, okay. Because that was the complaint for so much of 1, 2, and 3. Like, oh, can I stop hearing Wendy struggle with this? Can I stop? And it, Rachel, like, I
mean, she was dealing with a lot of challenges in book 3. Through book 1 and 2, she's dealing with a lot of, like, finding out about a lot of things that a lot of people would have an issue dealing with one of, and she's dealing with everything. And then book 3, I don't want to give anything away about book 3, but she's dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a very strict timeline of how we are going to handle things, and we're literally running out of time. And so if people are like, why is she so stressed and upset? I'm like, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Was it hard, Rachel, to make her so human?
Well, just as a writer, I struggle with and, I have a master's in psychology also. And so I tend to think that I understand people and the speed at which they progress, generally, like the general population. If you compare the general population with most, like, main characters, the speed at which a main character progresses is astronomically faster than you actually do in real life. And it's very, like, unbelievable. But at the same time necessary, because nobody wants to sit through that. Like, nobody wants to sit through a real person going through real changes. But at the same time, I think it's necessary to see that and to be able to relate to it, and then be able to say, like, if this person can do it, I can do it. Like, otherwise, what is the point of the story? If everybody in the story is progressing in a way that's unbelievable, like, you can't really relate to that. And I believe that stories are so important because it allows us to relate to the characters, and it allows us to relate to each other people who enjoy that story. So as a writer, it's like a constant battle, constant between pushing this character along to get the story moving and like holding them back so that it's believable that they're changing at the rate that they are. One of those stories in the volumes of book 6 is Charlotte. And in my head, when I was writing Charlotte, I was just like so frustrated with her, like, just stop being so boring. Like, and you know, I was so worried when I published that book, like, that people were going to hate it because she's just such a regular person. And it actually got really good reception considering how much I just despised her. And so it's taught me a lot about people's tolerance level for just kind of your everyday person, and that I'm doing okay with Wendy, with, you know, the level at which she's moving along in the story, and whether she's, you know, when she arrives or not arrives, or, you know. So for me, that's one of the hardest things to do, is figure out when to go, when to stop. Yeah.
Sam, what was your relationship? What turned you from, I read the first chapter, it seemed pretty good, to like in being endeared to Wendy? What?
I just really connected with her, feeling everyone's emotions. Like, you could just connect with everybody so quickly because the emotions were just so gripping, and you just needed to know more, and you needed to see how she would figure things out. And honestly, I'm a sucker for a good romance story. I want to see how couples, you know, get together and how they make it last and everything else. Actually, Colorworld, the series, was very formative for me in figuring out what I wanted in a relationship. And so I found my own Gabe because of Colorworld. So yeah,
That's
I know.
awesome.
It's so cute.
Good on you, Sam and David. I definitely remember texting Rachel in real time as I read book 2. I started out just trying to be a supportive husband. I'm like, hey wife, go do this thing that's your jam. And then I actually lost my job twice, really super weird circumstances. And I was like, well, now that I'm the loser husband at home with no job, I should read my wife's book. And I read one. I was like, oh, this is good. You do this writing thing. This is great. It's going to work good for you. And then I again, weird situation, you know, like weird, like, you're the greatest employee ever. I've loved, this is the greatest. Don't come to work on Monday. You can't come in. Like, what? What are you talking about? So I read book 2, and I was like texting Rachel in real time, and she's like, just stop and read the book and shut up. I don't want to know any more of your stupid thoughts and feelings. Read the book. And then she came. I don't even know where you were, but
I was visiting my friend Jenny. I was hanging out with my friend Jenny, and you even called me, I think. And I'm just like, I'm trying to hang out with my friend. Stop calling me. Just read it.
But by the time she got home, I was like in tears. I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever read in my life. I love this. You're gonna go get a Twitter and an Instagram, and you're gonna tell everyone. And this is, you're better than William Shatner. She's like, William, what is wrong with you? I was like, William Shatner's my favorite author. She's like, you're a real author. Somebody probably ghostwritten that. You're ridiculous. He became my favorite author, and I was just hell bent on telling everyone in the world how great this thing was. So, well, you have exciting things to look forward to. Everyone that's out there. Oh, good. Thank you, Rachel. It's a real thing, man. I was a puddle on the floor, and I sold the house. You
went from being a supportive husband to being the ultimate #1 fan.
I mean, Sam is kind of the ultimate. If you get Rachel alone and she's like, who's the be like, Sam?
I don't think Brad has read the last 2 books, or the last book. that I've written.
Oh.
So he's behind. I'm going to throw him under the bus because he needs to get on it. I'm just saying. There's Sunday. Sunday will come. It's tomorrow.
He doesn't want to get too far ahead of Shadoworld. He wants to be like
he's all like, I'm going to direct Shadoworld. I'm like, well, you should probably read it again. I think it's been a while, and you should probably know something before you try to tell people how to act this book out. So yeah.
This is my well, in my defense, the copy, there's something up with my phone, and when I try to buy the audiobook on oh my gosh, Kindle, it's like you have to buy it on a computer, and then you link your Kindle account to your phone. Like, you can't just be in Kindle, the Kindle app on the iPhone, and you can't just buy a book.
So weird.
It's not. It was like,
no, you have to go to Amazon.com and buy the book, and then it will download on your phone, Brad. It's not
why
that
is that a thing?
I don't know why.
I just buy it
Anything.
Well, you're talking the audiobook then. That I buy all of Rachel's books on Audible. I buy all of them. So I'm the first sale because I know it's available. So I
was gonna say you're the first one that they let you know.
I own them on Nook. I own them on Kindle. I own them in physical, and I own them in audio.
She's ready for it all.
Number one. So I'm terribly excited. Megan, oh my gosh. Megan Hollingshead and Tara Sands are going to be Judy and Charlotte. Right? Come on, Cherami. Tell me that's not like it was just written for those two. Have you seen the two of them together?
I haven't seen them together. I know them separately, and I adore both of them immensely.
Well, we did a panel. I
don't think there's anything that either of them can't do.
Well, they're spectacular actresses. I think we did a Pokemon event, and I just shut up. Like, I just gave them the panel. Like, the two of them it was amazing. And as soon as that panel was over, I was like, well, I now know who to cast as Charlotte. Megan is she's such a good and Tara is intent on as much ruckus as she can possibly.
Yes.
I'm so ready. And then Todd's going to get his day in the sun, and he'll get to be Ezra for a whole book. And then I will call Chris. I don't know if he'll turn down her race. It's possible. But Patrick Seitz said he owes me for saying no. I actually met Patrick in person. I was like, hey, just in case you were wondering, you're the only person to turn down. And he told me he was doing Fire Emblem for 7 months, and it wasn't like a personal thing at all. He just literally did Fire Emblem.
That's all he could do. He had to turn down a lot of it just because it's such a massive project. Like, I told him, I was like, are you when we were working on the game, I was like, how are you? And he goes, I don't know anything other than this universe. This is who I am now.
Yeah,
I love that.
I didn't take it personal. I was probably really nervous, to be honest, because not only is he like Loxus and Dio and Frankie and all of these loud, jerky, crazy, like, he's huge. He's a giant human. And I was like, all right, the worst you can say is no, you're a dumbass. So let me go. And then he was the biggest giant.
He's the nicest. Yeah. He's the sweetest.
That's how it is. It's like the David Wald too. Like, you wouldn't think. But I find it funny that David Wald always does 3 takes with Mike. It's like, first one, and we're like, more jerk. And the second one, and we're like, yeah, you're getting there. And then the third one, we're like, yes. That's
because he's just such a kind person.
He is. Yeah. I remember the auditions for Kent Williams, and Kent is a beautiful human. But he is so kind. He is so far in the kind that he couldn't get there. I was he's so kind.
I worked with him. I remember when I was, I believe, 8 years old, because he has an extensive background in puppetry and like had a puppet theater in Dallas. And I was working on a show where they had these like very lifelike puppets. And that was my first interaction with Kent, was as a puppeteer, and he did all these crazy voices, and I was enamored with him and the rest of his team doing these voices. I was like such a huge fan.
I love that so much. I'm so happy I know that story now. I think about him all the time because I'm constantly running out of space in Pokemon Go, and I'm like, what do I delete? What do I delete? And there's this Chansey, this like 1-star Chansey that me and Kent traded each other at a show, and it was trash. And I'm like,
keep it forever,
right? And so I'm like, oh, why did it turn out so bad, Kent? I need to see you again and get a good Pokemon so I can this stupid Chansey. Yeah, that's my life. Thank heavens my stuff with John ended up good, and so in fact, Jolty John is like one of my oh my God. Yeah, the Jolteon that I created is amazing. So I get to
yay. Yeah, I'm so glad. You would be so happy to know that.
Well, it is one of the original bromances.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So there's me and David Wald and me and John, and I can't. Oh, me and Michael Antonakis. There's just sometimes you click with people, you know.
It's true.
Well, before we go, I promised everybody we were going to announce something that is going to be limited and exclusive. We obviously could talk about this book series all night long, but Cherami will be here on April the 3rd, and by here I mean your computer screen.
Yes.
So we have 3 special edition, limited, like literally once April 3rd is gone, they go with it. And we have 3 of them. We secretly already snuck them onto the page. So if you're
so pretty. I'm gonna have to order some too because I will never find them in metal ever again, and they're so pretty.
Oh wow!
So Cherami, you want to tell, because each one of these has a particular theme. Like, tell me what we're looking at and how you came up with the direction for the art.
So this one right here, this animal one, which it's Asuna as a horse, Lucy obviously as a cat, Patty from Soul Eater as a giraffe, Lizzie from Black Butler as a puppy, and Mai from Ghost Hunt as a deer Patronus. If you'll notice, she's like kind of fading out. Her legs are kind of fading out, so it's like a Patronus. The artist is a family friend. And I said, could you do a commission for me? And she goes, I would love to. I can't draw people. I only like animals. And so I don't like drawing people. And I said, cool. Can you draw them as, so I sent her pictures of the characters and she was like, I feel like this one is a horse because she's majestic and she's like a stallion she goes, I feel like Lucy needs to be a cat because aren't there cats in the show? I was like, you do you. So that was her interpretation. And then the first one you showed, I loved those characters I hadn't really had on a lot of commissions. And so I was trying to pick people that have different relationships. There's Patty with her sister, Sita with Marth, Sarda with her parents, Chloe with Yamper. And I just thought that would be fun, like different types of relationships and who they're thinking of.
Okay, and then tell me about not last, not least.
So these are some of the tomboy sort of characters with the exception of Venus, who is just, the girly girl Venus. But the artists that I found to do that, I said I would like to get some of my tomboy characters on a print. And she's like, cool, but I have to draw Venus. I was like, okay, cool. So we did sort of like a pinup girly kind of style while still keeping their strength and their sassiness present, which was fun. It
reminds me a lot of Bratz.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, so it's Kudelia from Gundam and Natsumi from Sergeant Prague, Suzuha from Steins Gate, Sailor Venus from Sailor Moon, and Rode from D. Gray Man.
That is awesome. So all of these, I will show everybody where to go. Let's see. Share screen, click a tab. Bing. Okay. So let me find, it's in order by date. I can do calendars. So we'll click on Cherami. and then go to her page. With any luck, there we go.
Magic. There they are.
So these will remain up until the 3rd, and then they will disappear. So if you want one of these autographed with Cherami, then go ahead and grab them, and they'll be there until the 3rd. Cherami, I'm super pumped. Thanks for letting us have that project.
Yeah, thank you so much. They're so pretty. I'm going to have to order some too so I can immortalize them in metal.
And then, how was today? Did you have a blast today?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It's always fun. I mean, like, as I told a few of them, I said, this is so great because when I record, I'm like alone in the booth. I get to talk to the engineer and the director, but the show comes out. And the only reason we know what people like is when we go to conventions and see what people are drawing in the artist alley and what people are asking us in panels and what people are wanting us to sign. And so someone was like, I love Michiru from BNA. And I was like, people are watching it? Yeah, I'm so excited because it dropped while we were in quarantine. So I don't know what anybody's watching. And everybody's so fun. And if anything, I probably asked them way too many questions about their life and about I got such a fun anecdote about how one makes soda and what it's like working at Pepsi from Dylan, and it was so exciting. So it's always fun. I love getting to meet people, and I haven't gotten to do that for like the last year.
Oh, that's all. There's one guy who he does ultrasounds on railroad tracks to test.
Yeah, his name. Yeah, like.
I feel like I met him last year for Colorworld in May.
Yeah.
Because I remember he was saying something about working with railroads and was sort of describing what his job was. I was like, I did not know this was a thing.
I know.
Yeah. Please go into detail. I need to know more. I've said this so many times to people. I'm like, where's the Netflix documentary? Oh, I need to know more. I'm enamored.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that we have found a way, something that was born out of necessity to feed me and Rachel and our 5 kids ended up becoming one of the coolest things that we've ever done. So huge thanks to everyone in chat. I see a lot of familiar names out there, and you all have made it possible for us to fund the audiobooks since day one. The only reason we were ever able to pull that off was for all of you coming to support us at conventions. And we are absolutely thrilled. I have already emailed Cherami the script, and then obviously she has the bulk of the lines. And then me and David are going to pick a date to meet on the internet, and he's going to get in there and do a whole lot of Mike, and that's going to be spectacular. I feel like we're still trying to. Cherami, do you have a pick for Andre? If you could pick anyone.
Oh my gosh, no way. Wow. I have no idea. This is so hard for me. There are so many talented actors that I get to work with, and you want me to pick just one? This was like why when the one time I directed a show, the cast was handed to me already done. He was like, give me some options of actors that you might like. And I gave him a list of like 15 actors for each role. And I was like, these would all be great, but also these, and gave him like 10 more. And they were like, this is just. So the cast got handed to me with, it had already been approved by the producers and by the team. And so a bunch of people are like, I didn't even get to audition for you. I was like, I had no say because I was like, I can't be the bad guy. I can't do it. I could never be in casting. I would feel so bad. There's just too many talented people, and I want to give the job to everyone.
Oh my God.
I keep telling Brad, I'm like, the thing about Andre is he's short-lived, so you can't pick somebody you super like.
I know, but still.
Like,
I mean, part of it is
expendable. Like,
wow.
I don't know who I would pick. Like, it'd be somebody I don't know. We have to pick somebody we don't know.
Somebody we don't know? Well, then they're going to think I don't like them because I picked them for...
You're like, I just got killed off. What?
Yeah. Wow. Or maybe somebody with like a really dynamic voice, and then they can do another character like a totally different person.
That's a good choice.
So you know who I should get then? If that's what we're going for, is Damon Mills.
Ooh.
He does a ton of villains. right? He does the Nomu, the one that fights Endeavor in season 4. Like,
but he's such a sweet human.
well, so is David, but he's gonna be in 20 hours. Yeah, because the other thing is Eric Vale,
also a delightful human.
but also does, he's Shigaraki in My Hero Academia. So he, Rachel, is your headset dying?
Nope.
Okay.
I think it's on your end. Here, you can mute me and see what happens.
Okay. And then Todd has a ton of villains. And obviously is already prepared to play any number of the male voices in the series.
He can pull it off. I mean, like I said, you keep asking me about Andre, and I'm like, who am I gonna cast this? Who cares about Andre? Like, just have somebody play him. Like,
Sam, what do you think? I always am a big fan of making the universe bigger, and I like actors working. I like the idea that I can contribute to the art by casting. What do you think about who gets Andre?
Oh man, we've talked about this before when I was going through and highlighting all the voices, and it's just so hard because there's so many voice actors I love. And
Sam will never answer. You ask her a question about the books and what, like, she's like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's great. Yeah. Get somebody awesome and I'll love it and move on. Okay.
All right. Great. It's on me, I see. Thanks, everybody.
Somebody awesome. That's the bar.
Well,
somebody awesome. That's it.
I have 80 awesome people on my phone that I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I suppose we do what we did for Mike. Everybody had their pick, and everybody auditioned, and I was thrilled that we all came to the same conclusion. I still want to find something for Jason Douglas. He is absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, he's a genius.
Just wasn't the jerk. Like, Gildarts is a very, like, he's a terrible father, but he's not the jerk that Gajiel is. And so, like, Jason just never got to that point where I was like, yeah, that guy's a dick. I need him for Mike. Because Mike is, part of what is spectacular about Rachel's writing of Mike, like, he's a certified jerk face. Like, I mean, sure, there's a bunch of Team Mike people out there because he's hot and sexy and voiced by David Wald, who has one of the most gorgeous voices in the world. But beyond that, beyond all the looks and the pecs and the deep voice, like, he's still a jerk face. Anyway, Team Gabe, go Team Gabe. So thank you so much, ladies. It is such a pleasure to get to hang out with everybody. Chat, thank you. So Shadoworld, it's March. It's totally doable to have that out by the end of the year. So we'll try to take just enough of Cherami's time to get that over to Jason in time to edit. Huge shout out to Jason Romney, who I was just floored at the lack of pickups that we did for the last book.
I think he takes pride.
Oh yeah.
In being able to, like, I mean, the man, if there's one word wrong, he'll search through the whole book to find someone performing that word somewhere else and insert it, and then give me like 3 different versions and be like, which one sounds the most natural. I think he just takes pride in like being able to manipulate sound. Like, that's his thing. Which, by the way, he just, every time we would talk to him, Cherami, he would just gush about how great you were.
Oh, like, that's so sweet.
He's like, I can't even believe how good she is. Like, that's what he kept saying. So
nice.
And this is a theater guy. Like, he's in theater at the School of the Arts in North Carolina. So
he teaches sound design, and he like teaches. So he's heard so many, right? And
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's a well-founded opinion for sure.
That's so generous. I don't even know what to say.
You're a bad, awesome mother, You're a actress. You're just awesome. Sam, Rachel, Cherami, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much.
Chat, enjoy. Be on the lookout. We'll certainly let you know when Shadowworld's here, and go hang with Cherami Leigh April 3rd. I'm sure there will be more than just April 3rd. We will make sure everybody gets the answers they want.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you again soon.